This is Stronger Than My Father with Marcus Menace.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Stronger Than My Father podcast. I am your host, Marcus Menace Sr. Those that are new to Stronger Than My Father podcast, this podcast is designed to spur more awareness on fatherhood with the hopes of finding solutions to one day break this uncurable, I feel like it's uncurable disease called fatherness. Hey, we cannot do this work by myself. I have to thank my producer, Mr. Jim McCarthy at jmvos.com. So if you're in need of a podcast producer or a voiceover work, reach out to my boy Jim at jmvos.com. Man, I can't never get these intros right. Thanks for my photographer, Matilawa Smith, for taking photos today. And last but not least, my son, who helped set up all this stuff with me. So it's always good to have a son. So let's go to work. My guest today is a gentleman who I've been knowing for a long time, an advocate for fatherhood, who's in the fight of trying to change people's mindset of why fatherhood exists. Also, he's running for a school board. And so I would like to thank my guest, Mr. Rob Taylor.
Hey, I appreciate you.
Thank you. Darn, man, I got these intros, man. I had trying to memorize. Thanks, Rob, for coming on, man. Number one, a father of seven. And a lot of people will say in this generation, wow, you got 7 kids. Yeah. And how are you able to manage 7 kids? I want to delve into that. Your continuous fight as me. You were way before me. I jumped in like behind you to bring more awareness to fatherhood. So I want to delve into that today and then wrap up. Or why you run for school board? Why do you feel like you're the person to make change? So tell my audience a little bit about yourself as we delve into fatherhood and some old challenging things today.
Yeah, well, you've already spilled the beans. I'm a father of 5, right? And
hold up, 5 or 7?
I know, right? Okay. I was just making sure you were paying attention.
Cool. All right, cool.
So it's 7. I have 7 children, and I've been married to my wife for 23 years now, going on 23 years. Mm-hmm. And we met at Fisk University. I came to Fisk back in 1995.
Wow.
And so we graduated from Fisk, got married a few years after we finished school, and we moved back to my hometown. I'm originally from Prince George's County, Maryland. And so we moved back to Prince George's County and started our family there. We had 3 children. By the time we had to decide, where are our kids going to go to school? Yeah. And my oldest daughter was about to go to kindergarten, and the neighborhood that we lived in just wasn't necessarily the best neighborhood. Yeah. And so we were trying to figure out, like, is this going to be where we set up shop and just make our life here in the Maryland, D.C. area, or move back to Nashville, where my wife is from. She's a Whites Creek grad, so shout out to all the Cobras out there.
Yeah, I'm a Whites Creek grad.
That's right. Yeah. And so we decided to move back to Nashville and get closer to my wife's family, but also just a slower pace of life at the time. Yeah. We moved back here almost 16 years ago, back in 2008. And so that was right before the city exploded. I think 2008 is when we had the housing recession. So the housing market was really depressed. But then after that, everything just kind of exploded, and so you see the Nashville that we have today. Yeah. But that's just a little bit about me and how I got to Nashville, and so people always ask the question, how do we manage 7 kids in the house?
That was gonna be my next question. How do you? I only have 2. Yeah. Now, I've been married just as long as you, so we both even on that one. Yeah. But I don't know. Now, my parents had 4, but I don't know how did you manage 7 and still stay married?
That's funny.
That's the trick question.
Look, we don't even have time to be arguing again.
That's the trick question for you today.
We're so busy parenting. But no, I think that my wife and I, the one thing that we know will make sure that we stay in a good relationship is communication. Yeah. And so we use several different tools to just make sure that we communicate effectively with each other. Yeah. One thing that we learned early on in our relationship was that we can't just have a conversation and then go back to that conversation later and say, oh, well, you said such and such and such.
Yeah.
Because everybody remembers it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And so when we have conversations, we'll send a text message behind that to say, hey, now we agreed to do A, B, and C.
I need to try that one.
And that way we can kind of hold each other accountable because we got it in writing.
Yeah.
And then we have our calendars too. I can show you this on here. But each one of those calendars, each color is a different calendar that we have.
Wow.
So I have one for work. I have one for family time. I have one for the school board race, one for our church activities. And so we have different calendars that we all have access to so that we can see, where people are going. So I got you on my calendar for this morning. Yeah. And, made it out here in time.
That's a smart move, man.
Yeah.
One thing I learned in marriage is communication is really the biggest thing.
Yes.
Because you can't keep everything in your head and expect your spouse to know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Or what you're thinking. So managing 7, how would you able to manage all the children personalities and being able to deliver as a father? Well,
the blessing is that we're in a married relationship, right?
Yeah.
And so mom and dad are in the house with both kids, with all of the kids, and with both parents, and we're able to see ourselves in our kids.
Yep.
So the things that our kids do that, may annoy us sometimes or may make us happy, right?
Yeah.
We can see that, oh, okay, that's something that I do.
Yeah.
Or that's something that my wife does. And and so it allows you to recognize that, we're all imperfect.
Yeah.
And so there's things that we can work on. And so when I see it in my child, I can also work on it as a parent, right?
Yeah.
And then when I see something that my wife is doing in my children, I can gently say, hey, this is something that we can work on together as a family, right?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that we're able to do pretty well in our household is work on the areas where we could grow and then continue to move forward in the areas that we do well in. One of the things that we've also recognized is that in our household, I'm more of a planner. Like I try to plan things out where they can go the way that I would like them to go, right?
Yeah.
And my wife is that way also. But one of the things that she focuses on with our children, and not saying I don't do this as well, but she focuses on making sure that our children's emotional needs are well.
Wow, that's a good one.
And so for me, I'm trying to make sure that they get to all of their activities on time and get picked up and all of those types of things. But she makes sure that, how are you feeling today?
Yeah.
About going to this particular activity. Is it something that we need to talk about before you get there? What do you want to have happen once you show up?
Yeah.
And so she focuses on those areas. So the two of us coming together as parents are able to kind of meet all of the needs of the children because we bring two different viewpoints to it.
That's cool, man. I think anytime your children can see parents working together, that's a good look. And I remember when I went to your kickoff campaign, I see all your kids together. Yeah. I was like, they did something right. They did something right because you usually get a straggler out of kids.
What they call it, a black sheep.
Yeah, the black sheep. Yeah. And I wasn't a straggler, but everybody said I'm because I did everything. I did everything. The things I feel like was in my head that I wanted to do, from starting an after school program and stuff like that with no experience.
But that's pretty amazing, brother.
I just be doing stuff, man. This thing, hope it work, man. This is me, man. If it works, great. Just like podcasting, you know. I just said I want to do it, and
here we are.
Here we are, episode 51.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. I've had this with several guests on the podcast. How do you and your wife keep the love and affection for each other after 23 years and 7 kids? How do you still keep that where it's not drifting away? Because most marriages, and I've seen and heard at the time, it just starts drifting away because we focus more on our children than on ourselves. Like, they say you need to do a date night at least once a month. All the things you need to do to keep your marriage together. Can you give me some advice? What I need to do better? What do you think I need to do better?
Pray. But seriously, that's the number one thing. And I would say that for us, I could definitely do a better job of being more consistent about leading in prayer in the household. Yeah. But there's something about praying together. One is that you're having a conversation with God as a couple, right? But then during that conversation with God, your spouse hears the desires of your heart. Right?
Wow, I never
because
thought
you're
about
praying
that.
for the things that you're believing for and things that you want to have happen for your family, for your business, for everything that you have going on.
Yeah.
That's what you're praying about. And so when you're doing that with your spouse, you're not only communicating with God, but you're communicating with your spouse.
Yeah.
So now you know your spouse's heart's desire during that prayer time.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. Now, I'm not going to say I pray every day with my wife.
Yeah.
But that's one thing. We know that we're going to pray together.
Yeah.
And when things get tough, we know we got to make sure that we back on our prayer life the way that we need to.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that we do. The other thing is being intentional about spending time together.
Yeah.
We call New Orleans kind of our second home.
Wow.
Because we try to get down for Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
We have some family friends that allow us to stay with them when we go. And then we also go down for Essence during the summer.
Yeah.
And so we got at least 2 trips that we take. And then as Fiskites, we celebrate homecoming.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't take their spouse to homecoming with them for whatever reason.
Cause they want to look like they single.
Hey, whatever the case is. But, we go to everything as a couple.
Yeah.
And now, we might hang out with our own people or whatever, but, we do things together like that. And I think that you just have to be intentional about doing the things that work for you.
Yeah.
Because they might not work for everybody.
Yeah.
Just being real. You might spend time or enjoy your spouse in a different way than having to go out to eat or going to a movie or whatever. My wife and I, we're comedy fans. So, shout out to Zanies. We'll show up at Zanies and hang out there from time to time if there's a comedian that we really like. But we also get online and just watch the comedians that we really enjoy. Yeah. So that's kind of our, time where we spend together. We probably spent too much time watching Club Shay Shay.
I get my podcast
right? That's it.
That's my vision.
That's it. That's where we going. So we're gonna have to watch the Stronger Than My Father podcast.
We gotta get more controversial. Then I can go there.
No, we having fun with them.
I can go there. But let me ask you this: what before we go into your decision while you're running for school board? What are like 1 or 2 things your father taught you about being a man and preparing to take care of a family?
So what I would say is that my father wasn't the type of dad. He wasn't the Furious Styles type of dad from Boys in the Hood. Like he wasn't, sitting me in the barber chair and give me life lessons and all of that. Yeah. But my father was always there. Right. Okay. So what he taught me through just being there is that your presence matters. Yeah. Right. And then also my father was a provider. Yeah. My father is first generation American. He's Trinidadian, and he came to the States to get an education. And so he believed that education was very important. And so that was one thing that he instilled in us, was that we need to get an education. He also taught me work ethic. Yeah. Growing up, my father always worked multiple jobs. You know how they say a Jamaican will work, 2 or 3 jobs.
I didn't know that one.
Well, Trinidadians will work 10. And so he always had multiple jobs. Growing up, he was a demographer for our county, so he's a city employee. And the side job that he had was he was a distributor for the Washington Post. And so he would pick up the bundles of papers from the Post in a big step van, kind of like a UPS truck, and then deliver it to all the paper boys so that they could run the routes. Got it. And so he managed the paper boys, did all the billing for the newspapers and all of that. And so when the paper boy wouldn't show up, guess who was the paper boy for that route?
Your dad.
That day? No, me.
Oh, wow. He made you go to work.
He would wake me up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, go with him. Wow. Especially during the summer when we weren't in school. Yeah. I'm getting up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, going to the Washington Post building, getting the bundles. They put a chute in the back of the truck, and then you got to stack the bundles up and fill the whole entire back of the truck. Wow. And I was doing that from the age of 11 all the way through high school. I probably shouldn't say how young I was, but
how you had to work.
That's it.
But that's what made you to the man you are today.
And it just taught me work ethic. Yeah. And that if you want to support your family and take care of them, you got to get to work. Yeah. You got to get to work. And so that's one thing that I've learned from my father, just from example. Yeah. And him being there in my life.
Let me ask you this. What made you become an advocate to fight for fatherhood? I forgot to write down your nonprofit.
It's okay.
So tell people your nonprofit, but what made you get into the world of fighting for fatherhood?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So let me tell you the name of the nonprofit first. It's the New Life Center.
Yeah.
And the website is the New Life Program. So it's actually just newlifeprogram.org.
Okay.
So newlifeprogram.org is the website, and you can take a look at that, and you can see the different programs that we offer. But the reason why I got involved with fatherhood was it was kind of interesting. I worked at the Metro Public Health Department here. When I originally came back to Nashville, I came back to do tobacco control policy work.
Okay.
So all of the bars and restaurants had gone smoke-free. They had just passed the Non-Smoker Protection Act. And so we had to figure out how to encourage the bars and restaurants downtown to go smoke-free. Because even though the law passed, they were adamant that they weren't going to buy more. That's it. And so we had to pull data from other states and cities that had gone smoke-free and show the bars and restaurants that you actually do more business when you go smoke-free than when you allow smoking. Because the majority of people don't smoke, right?
Yeah.
Generally, it's about 20% of the population was smoking at that time.
Okay.
And so you got 80% of folks who don't smoke and prefer not to be around smoke when they go out for entertainment.
Yeah.
And so
I'm for one of those people.
Well, that's it. And so we were able to make that case. The bars and restaurants got on board with it. And so in public health, your job is really to put yourself out of a job, right? And so that's what I did.
Darn, you put people out of a job.
Well, I put myself out of a job.
Darn, that's even worse.
Because you don't need somebody to advocate for non-smoking in the bars and restaurants because it's already done.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing, right? And so I was looking for another opportunity within the health department, and there was a new grant that the health department had just received to reduce infant mortality rates. And that grant was from our federal Healthy Start program, which had been around for 20 years at the time. They are a home visiting program that works with moms and babies. And the infant mortality rates have been dropping, but they had plateaued to where they just couldn't figure out how to reduce the infant mortality rates. And our rates were higher than third world countries.
Darn.
Right. And so we're like, what is going on here? Why are so many babies dying before their first birthday? And we realized we weren't working with the fathers.
Yep.
And so I became one of the first male involvement specialists for the Federal Healthy Start program. And this was back in 2009 or 2010, somewhere in that range. And
probably that's why I met you right around that time. Yeah.
And that's it. And so there were 105 programs around the country throughout the United States. And only 5 of us had male involvement specialists at the time. And so it was myself and a couple other brothers that kind of developed what that role would look like in the Federal Healthy Start program. Well, now in 2024, the federal government added legislation to say that every program that's funded by Federal Healthy Start dollars must have a male involvement specialist.
Yeah.
They have to have somebody working with the fathers because they understand how important a father's role is to the success of a child's life. And so that's how I got started in fatherhood, was through that Healthy Start program. We were initially doing childbirth courses for dads, teaching them how to change diapers, swaddle the baby, help with breastfeeding. And we realized that a lot of the dads we were working with couldn't even afford the diapers.
Dang,
I remember after one workshop, a guy came up to me. He was like, "Man, you think I can get a couple of diapers to take home?" And I'm like, "Man, just take the whole box. Like, it's grant funded. We can just buy some more or whatever.
Yeah.
Just take all of the diapers." And I was like, "Man, we got to do more." And so we applied for another grant. We received that grant as $1.5 million to do a comprehensive fatherhood program, and we were able to serve over 1,000 dads through that program throughout Nashville.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so that's what we were doing, and unfortunately, politics got involved, and just being very honest about it, we were serving a lot of black dads, and some people didn't like that.
Wow.
And so the health department decided not to renew the grant. The federal government, we had done such a good job with the program. The federal government offered us another $500,000 to keep the program going.
Yeah.
And the director at the health department at the time decided not to to renew that. And so that's where I started my own nonprofit.
Yeah.
The New Life Center was born from that.
Yeah.
I realized that sometimes you just have to do it on your own.
Exactly.
And that way you can do it the way that you want to and support the families that need the support. And so that's how I got started. I applied for a couple of smaller grants, and it just really took a while for it to take off. But this past year, I received a grant that is the equivalent of the grant that I had at the health department, that $1.5 million. And so this is the largest grant that we've had with the New Life Center, and we've been able to serve families primarily in the North Nashville community. Yeah. But we're coming out this way.
Hey, let's go.
And one to support the families in this Antioch area as well. So it's coming. And,
well, you know I'm here, so
that's it.
You know, you got another champion who's advocating for fatherhood, and I've never got into the fatherhood circle yet. That's hoping.
Nah, you in it, brother. You in it. We
I just figured out, you know, when I have an undergrad in psychology, and I figured out if I can help a dad, maybe he saves his kid, and his kid may not need a mentor.
So that was one of the other reasons I kind of beefed up what I was doing.
Yeah.
I had a friend that was working for Big Brother, Big Sister.
Yeah.
And he kept, Rob, man, we need some more bigs, man. I need you to sign up. And I was like,
do you have the time?
Bruh.
Yeah.
I got, I think at the time I had 5 kids. I was like, I got 5 of my own kids to mentor. Like, what am I look like going out mentoring somebody else's kid when I got my own kids to mentor? And it just dawned on me, where are all these kids' dads?
Where they dad at?
Right. And half the time the dads just live on the other side of town.
And I've never figured out why, and I probably will never figure out unless I interview somebody who's experienced why you man enough to lay in the bed and produce the child. Yeah. But you're not man enough to take care of it. Now, only way I could figure is that maybe he didn't get the tools from his dad, or he was abandoned by his father. So all he knows, sex gonna always be in your mind. That's man. But you're not thinking about, okay, I gotta take care of it. Do you think about my child's issues, that the trauma they're gonna be dealing with when you're not there, and stuff like that? So that's kind of what I'm in the early stages of advocating for fathers to understand, that every decision you make comes with a consequence.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So as you see, my son was with me helping set up the podcast stuff. Yeah. And I gave him a high five at the end and said, good job. You know how that make him feel?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But when you what if I told him you took too long, you just going off on him? Yeah. How did it make him feel?
Yeah, and that's some of the work that we do through our program, is just teaching guys the skills of positive parenting. Yeah. Right? I think that a lot of folks, even myself at times, grew up in households where our parents didn't necessarily use the most positive parenting style, right? Yeah. There was a lot of fear and some corporal punishment going on. And it produced some results. Yeah. But there's also some trauma that comes along with that. Yeah. And what we've learned is that there's other ways to parent that can eliminate the trauma. Yeah. But get the same results.
Well, right? I don't want to dive with you, but I mean, my parents whooped me because I needed the whoopings, but them whoopings kept me out of jail. I needed them because I was the middle child. I was bad, man. I was bad. And if I ever can get my dad to talk on a podcast, I mean, I was bad. I mean, I talked back. I was disobedient, and they said the rod of correction to get it out of you. Yeah, but. I learned, but here's the thing I say. I don't say like try to kill your kid. I ain't gonna say my parents tried to kill me. I got some good whoopings. Yeah, but it didn't kill me. But I knew when you said one word, fear. My dad put fear in us, but it wasn't fear that we was always scared of him. It was a fear of trying not to make bad decisions.
Got you.
So when he said, "Hey, if you want to sag your pants, you're gonna go to school in your underwear. Which one y'all gonna try me?" Yeah, that's all he said. So me and my brothers had to make a logical decision who gonna go sag his pants, because daddy just might make you go to school if you want to show. And he said some choice words, but it just don't. And that was old school. It may not work for it may not work for this. It may not work for my son, but I put some fear in him.
Yeah, and I think that as parenting has evolved and as being fathers has evolved, one of the things that I've learned is that we can create relationships with our children where the fear is about disappointing you as a parent. Okay. Versus the fear that there may be some corporal punishment attached to it or something of that nature. I would say that my children, their biggest fear is that they would disappoint me as their dad. My daughters especially, but even my sons, they want to know that, you know what, I'm doing the right thing, because I do make sure to pray. Before I left the house this morning, my son I had asked him to clean up some papers that he had knocked over last night. I came down, I acknowledged it, gave him a little kiss on the forehead and said, hey, bro, I appreciate you. I love you, man. I'll see you when I get back home. Yeah. And he was like, I love you too, Daddy.
That's that affectionate side where, but men, I will say this, not to cut you off from the story, is that men being affectionate towards their sons. I know daughters. Yeah. But men, why it's so important for men? Because am I affectionate with my boys? I mean, I always hug them. My dad wasn't a big hugger growing up. But
neither was mine.
Yeah, he was just more like, let me shake your hand, that's it.
My dad has never told me that he loves me.
Does that affect you?
Ever. I mean, I think about it, but I know he loves me, right?
That's what I say. I didn't hear my dad say, Mark, I love you. And I just knew he provided for us. And when I got older, I realized that he was there for us. Yeah. So the affectionate side really didn't bother me. I just knew that he loved us. Anytime if I call my dad now, he gonna say, what you need? You okay? Yeah. I feel like there's love. It is. But in marriage, you know, spouse said you don't. My wife says it now. You don't say I love you enough. You don't say this. I don't. I just, the way my dad raised me, and I don't know if that's what boys. It's kind of like you still do the same thing that I pretty much manage my house, my life, how my dad trained us. Yeah. And some of it works. Some of it I know I need to adjust, and I'm almost 48 years old and I still ain't figured out how to adjust that yet. Yeah. I just know, look, when you come home, it's safe. I'm providing for you. Yep. And you ain't got no outside women calling and causing chaos. Right. So I assume that's love, but I done had over 2 or 3 other podcasts that I've had therapy sessions, and I said, I'm not doing no more of these therapy sessions on doing a podcast. Yeah, man. To teach that about affection. But for you, what your dad put in you, do you see yourself repeating the same thing with your kids? No, because I recognize that the things that I remember about my dad being deficits or things that I wish had happened. Yeah. I don't want my kids to experience that. And so I want to take what my dad did well. I want to make sure I do that. Yeah. But then build on that, right? Okay. And I hope my kids do the same thing. Yeah. That's why I love the name of your organization, Stronger Than My Father. Yeah, everybody want to grow better than their dad. That's it. My dad want me to be better than him, so it's not a slap in his face. And so I think that is the goal of a father, right? Yeah. Is to make sure that your kids are better off than you. Yeah. And sometimes we take it too far and we end up spoiling them, right? Yeah. Because we're trying to give them everything that we didn't have. Yeah. And I think that's where, like, when I talked about my wife, making sure that their emotional needs are taken care of and things like that, she's taught me that I need to be more emotional. So that's why I do those things. Now, MJ now I can tell you this, I mean, cut you off. MJ has the affectionate side. I said the other day, he's a 15-year-old version of me. Okay. I was really, really affectionate till I had my first heartbreak. Oh, then man. I turned into my dad. Ice box where your heart used to be. But I think after I just see it in MJ. Yeah. And I see my 15-year-old self, and maybe I'm trying to protect him from the things I went through. And I've heard a lot of people say, you got to let him live. Yes. You got to let him live. And that's hard for me. Well, I think the thing for us, too, is that we guide our children, right? Yeah. And so when you're doing this thing right, you know that you're instilling values in your children and you're helping them to learn how to make decisions. Yeah. And so if you've put that work in and you know that you've put that work in, then now you got to trust that it's going to work. That's what my parents said. And you got to trust that, hey, I've instilled values in my child. I've taught them how to make positive decisions for themselves. And now I got to give them opportunities to practice that. Yeah. Right? And then be there when things don't necessarily work out the way they want to. Be there to support them, but then let them know, hey, this is how you get back on track. And then give them the opportunity to do the work to get back on track so that they're not always relying on you as a parent to bail them out. That's true. Darn, you give me some good therapy lessons. Man, we got to go into why you running for the school board before our time run out. I'm about to say how much time because I had to bring him back for a part. Maybe by the end of the year, we come back and talk parenting, fatherhood as well. But I know you're running for school board, District 1. Tell my audience, number one, why you feel like, what made you decide to run for school board? Yeah.
So this is my second time running for school board.
Yeah.
I ran last time. The incumbent decided to run again as well, and so the reason why I decided the first time to run was because I just felt like we needed a leader that was accessible, someone that was going to be available to the community, and be an advocate for our schools, our Metro Public Schools. I still believe all of those things. But the added piece is that I truly believe that we need leadership that is going to be focused on bringing the community together around the idea that education has to be our number one priority. I think we had a conversation before the podcast where we were talking about tennis shoes and all of that good stuff, and that's great, right? Yeah. And I love a good pair of tennis shoes and all of that. Yeah. But I want to make sure that the same conversation that we can have about tennis shoes is the same conversation we're having about education. Yeah. And where our kids going to college, where they want to go to school, what type of classes are they taking, who's the best teacher at this school. And I think we can get to that point because if we truly change our mindset around what we value and what's important to us as a community, that's what's going to change how our schools are performing. I think our teachers are doing an amazing job with what they're giving, right? They are making bricks with no straw sometimes, right?
That's tough.
And so we want to make sure that they have every resource to be able to get the outcomes that we're looking for from our kids, but they can't do it alone. And I don't think it's fair for us to ask our teachers, our administrators, and our staff to do it alone. And that's where we come in as men in the community, as community partners who come in and work with children outside of school. We need to be there to support our faculty and the staff in the schools to make sure that the kids get the outcomes that we're looking for. And that's what I hope to do. I think that as, if people are watching, they see that I'm a black man, right? And I think that, the call to action that I have is for brothers like us to step up, and for all fathers to step up, get more involved and more engaged in the schools. And I think that it takes a man to call out another man and get them to move in that way. And some people may disagree with that or whatever, but
they'll leave in the comments.
I know, but I've seen it work.
Yeah,
and I know it works. And so I'm taking that leadership role to say, hey, look, brothers, it's time for us to step up. And I wanted to do that from the school board, and so that's why I'm running for school board. I asked for your support.
Yeah, you tell them.
Camera here.
Yeah, it's the camera.
Right,
also,
everybody.
tell them where they can donate to, where they can donate to you at.
Yeah. So once again, my name is Robert Taylor. I'm running for school board District 1. You can visit my website at taylorforschools.com. It's TAYLORFOR. schools with an S at the end.com. And you can visit my website for more information about our campaign, as well as for the link to donate if you're interested. And if you live in District 1, we're asking for your vote today. I appreciate you all, and we're going to ask for your vote. But then we're also going to ask for you to get engaged and get involved in the schools. We're looking for folks that want to volunteer, and there's a link on our website for you to click to volunteer as well. So once again, my name is Robert Taylor. I'm running for School Board District 1, and I'm asking for your vote today. Thank you.
All right. So we got I'll make sure everybody get that so they can donate and continue to support you. Yeah. One quick question as we get close to wrapping this up is, if you're elected as school board, when?
Go ahead.
Okay, let me say when.
Speak it.
Speak it. All right, I got you. How can we convince parents to keep their kids in metro schools and not run off to the charter schools or say, I'm going to run to maybe Williamson County or these areas where they can have better schools? Because I'm one parent. Like I said, my oldest is at KIPP, which he was, I think he was on either Antioch High School or Cane Ridge. But I grew up, Whites Creek. But I know it's different from 94 till 20 years from. Well, it's 30 years now.
30 years,
Jesus,
brother.
Darn, 30 years. I've been out of school that long.
Right.
What can you do to convince parents, especially in the area where you live in District 1, to keep parents in public schools?
I think that the leadership that I've provided throughout the community over the years has shown that once I'm committed to something, I'll make it happen. We talked about our families. I've been committed to my wife. for 23 years, right?
Yeah.
And so when I make a decision like that, I stick with it.
Yeah.
And I'm committed to champion the work that is being done in Metro Public Schools.
Yeah.
I will say that the knock on me as a candidate is that all my kids are not in Metro schools. So I have 7 children though, right? And one of the things that I valued more than anything was making sure that my children all had a similar academic experience. And unfortunately, Metro wasn't able to provide that type of guarantee for my family. There's no sibling preference when you get to the magnet schools, and so and I understand that. But for a family of 7, that creates a challenge, especially logistically, getting back and forth to school and so forth. But the reason why I want to run for school board in District 1 is because I know that there's great work going on. I worked as a family involvement specialist in the Whites Creek cluster, and I saw the wonderful things that were going on in the building, but nobody knew about it. There was nobody screaming from the rooftop, man, Whites Creek has a solar panel farm out here. And we're teaching our kids about green energy and how to create. They had a program where they created go-karts from ethanol. So they grew soybeans, created ethanol, and then ran the go-karts off the gas that they created at Whites Creek.
I didn't know they were doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right?
There needs to be more awareness.
And
of that.
so when we start telling the stories about the wonderful things that are going on in our high schools and our middle schools, and how there's a pathway to these different career options, parents will look for opportunities like that. Because if you have a child in charter school, the first thing that came to your house was a little postcard that said, hey, your son so and so would be a good fit at our school. We can do the same thing in Metro.
Well, I mean, people send their kids to Meggs, they send their kids to Hume Fall, and those public schools, those Metro public schools. Okay, I didn't know that.
The magnet schools.
Okay, all right. So, but why not send them to Antioch Middle? What's wrong with Antioch Middle? What's wrong with Antioch High School? And that's my thing, because like I said, my wife, she didn't want to do it. I was like, man, just send them over there. Oh, he ain't gonna get the quality education. We keep saying quality. Like, what do we mean by what kind of quality education you're gonna get? I assume, and I'm gonna bring Sonya back on, because Sonya was here.
Oh, okay.
And we went back and forth on this. What do we mean by quality education?
So it's the way you asked the question. You asked the question. You said, "What's wrong with Antioch Middle?" And I would challenge folks to change the mindset and say, "What's right with Antioch Middle?"
That's true.
Right? And because if you go into it with the mindset that you're looking for the positives in the school, you're going to be more likely to find them, right? And I think that what happens is you have these conversations around school, and people are saying, what's wrong with Antioch? Well, I can say nothing, right? And the first thing I'm going to ask you is, when the last time you've been in Antioch Middle? Right?
That'd be a challenge.
Exactly. Most people haven't even walked in the doors at any of these schools, but they're making a judgment based on other people's experiences, right? And you may have a wonderful experience if you go to Antioch Middle, and but you haven't given it an opportunity based on the story that you were told from someone else. And so one of the things that I would hope to do as a school board member, right now the state has come out with this new grading scale that they have on our schools. And of course they're marking all of our schools as failing and all of that type of stuff, right? But we know that's not the case. And so one of the things that I would hope to be able to do is figure out a way that we can score our schools ourselves. That way we can tell our own stories. And I think when we allow other people to tell our story, then they can create a narrative that suits their needs. Right? But when we tell our own story, we can get to what the truth is. And the truth is, there's amazing things going on in Metro schools. And now, are there things that we could do better? Yes. Right? But that's any school you go to. Public, private, charter, homeschool. Anywhere you get an education, there's some things that you could do better. Right?
That's true.
But Metro is doing an amazing job, especially since Dr. Battle has come on board. I just applaud the work that she's doing, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to work with her and the other school board members to continue that work. And to continue improving the schools to where my goal is to make Metro Nashville Public Schools the best choice for all parents. That's the goal. And that way you don't have to worry about what charters are doing. You don't have to worry about what private schools are doing. Because you know that you're doing everything you can to make Metro the best. And then if parents choose to go to Metro, that's great. If they don't, that's fine too, because you know that the kids that you're serving are getting the best. And that's what the goal is, and that's what I hope to bring as a school board member.
Well, you guys heard it first from Robert Taylor, man. Yeah. District 1.
That's right.
For public metro schools. So if you guys believe in him, I say, hey, you vote for him. And give him a shot to make change here in the community. So anything else as we close up, any final remarks, anything you want to say to my guests that's listening to this episode?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to the folks that have endorsed our campaign already. The Honorable Brenda Gilmore, who is a state senator for years here in Nashville, has endorsed our campaign. She understands the importance of education here in Nashville, and she knows the work that I've done through the years in the District 1 community. Also, Representative Vincent Dixie has endorsed us, and so we appreciate that support. He is our state representative for District 55. Which is in that North Nashville community, and just well respected, and so I appreciate that. And then also Lionel Matthews has endorsed our campaign as well. He's currently our juvenile court clerk, and we've worked together for years to support young people in our community. So these are people that know the work that I've done. I know that once I'm able to walk into the role as a school board representative, there are people that I can call on to support us and to bring our community together around the issue of making Nashville a place where education is our number one priority. And so thank you. I appreciate the time, brother.
Man. I wish you luck. And one thing we forgot to talk about is we are trying to plan a fatherhood walk. So keep listening and keep watching the social media as we can prepare to continue to bring more awareness to fatherhood. Two brothers coming together to say, hey, man, fatherhood matters. So good luck.
Thank you, brother.
You know, I support you any way I can.
Yes, I
believe you, man. We've been on this journey for fatherhood for 10 years.
Exactly.
I know my journey is going on 11, yours 11 as well. So thank you so much, man, and I wish you luck.
Thank you. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Strong in My Father podcast. If you like what you hear, please click the subscribe button and share the message of Strong in My Father podcast so others can continue to hear the work we're doing to bring more awareness to fatherhood. Also, if you like what you hear, please subscribe or make a donation of $25 or more to help keep this podcast on the air. So go to my website at strongerthanmyfather.org/donate. Make a donation of any size, at least 25 or more, to help keep this podcast going. Thank you guys so much for listening in to Strong in My Father podcast. Thank you so much to my producer, Jim McCarthy. If you need voiceover work, jmvos.com, or if you need a podcast producer. God bless you. See you on another episode of Strong in My Father podcast.